Hello. I've been realized that it's been, like some time since I made a video on my serger, which I still have. Had it all this time, and like the ways that I use it, since I, do all kinds of stuff. The first thing, in the last year, I lost my thread trap that goes here. I took it in for service, and somewhere between taking it in for service and home and moving between rooms in my house, I lost the thread trap that goes right here. So then what I did was I took, this is magnetic tape, and this is one of those pencil tray desk organizer things. So I put it here, but since it's tape and this is open, I had to put a second piece of tape like right here so that this is not sticky. This would probably work better if I had bought a different drawer organizer thing, but this is what I had on hand, right? I'm going to be cheap about it, right? So I'm going to use what I already have. I could have bought one that was covered and then I wouldn't have to do this. But since this is sticky on this side, I needed to cover the sticky. So magnetic tape here, tape, magnetic tape here. And this is just an extra piece of tape for good measure, although this does hold it really well. And now I have this thread trap that sticks on. And it sticks on while I'm sewing. Actually, this sticks on really pretty well. I have this tripod that I found. Actually, I've had this tripod forever, but I've not used it since high school when I took a photography course. So I'm not sure if it's gonna work. I'll find out. But I looked at some of my old videos and they were pretty unsteady, so it clicks on. There you go. If you lose your thread trap, which I did, that's what you do. And then since it's a magnet, another problem with the other one is that because it has to stick in here, every time you move it, you had to lift it up and move it over. This being magnetic, it's really easy, and now you're inside. So I need to thread it. Another thing with the threads is you can see that you go through some threads faster than others. So this one has more thread than this one. So I'm going to rotate the threads and I'm going to put the skinny ones on the needles. And I'm going to put the ones with more thread on the loopers. And I'm going to thread it. Make sure that your foot is up. There's a little clip there. I'm going to make sure my tension is at 0 when I first do this, and then I'm going to turn it over. Bring it down, bring it over. Here's my tweezer. I'm going to move this lamp so I see what I'm doing. I'm going to take this tweezer, and I'm on blue. Follow the blue. Follow the blue. Goes through this pigtail here. Grab it with my finger. Make sure it's not caught on anything. And it's going to go through the upper looper. And now I'm going to stick it kind of under my foot and through the back. Next thread. Click it, make sure you hear the click. Get down. Now we're on red. This has got red, red, This one is always the hardest one, right? It's red. Sorry, I'm doing this myself when I don't have a professional camera. Red. Now, this has to hook somewhere way back there. So, and some Genomes, they have you open this whole thing up and thread it. This doesn't do that. Now, I want to get these. I'm going to move this so that my swords cross. My swords are crossing, and this one is slightly higher. I'm going to get my swords to cross, and I'm going to push this through. I'm going to pull it to the back. I'm going to make sure it's not hooked on anything. Now there's a little lever here, and I'm going to hook it around this lever, pull it to the back. I'm going to hold it so there's some tension. And now my lower looper is threaded. And that's it. That's why I like the serger, because it's easy for me to thread. It was the easiest one for me to thread in my price range. Time to thread the needles. So I don't know that it matters which order you go in. Stick my finger back here so I can see the eye of the needle. I have reading glasses on. Oh, don't get cut. Sorry about my arm getting in the way. I don't know a really graceful way to do this. I'm not a particularly graceful person. All right. Yes, the dishwasher is running. Won't go through, so I need to cut off the tip with my clippers. Handy dandy clippers. And I've threaded it. And it only took me like a few minutes. I'm sure it'd be faster with an air threader, but you know, an air threader machine is like $1,000, and this was like $500. So there you go. Now I'm going to turn on the machine, because I did this without the machine on. I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to test it with a scrap, because you should always test it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is turn, this is going to a 4-thread overlock. I need all the tensions to be the same. When you do a 4-thread overlock or 3-thread overlock, you want all the tensions to be the same. Put my trim trap back on, and I have it on this mat so that I can move it and you make it easier for me to use it. And this is easier if you go through 2 layers. So put the foot down. I don't have the and I'm on, there's rolled hem, I'm on rolled hem, I think, so I want an N for normal. Clearly I was cleaning this the last time I was using it. make sure I get some cut off. Let's see how my stitch looks. I have my stitch width normal. All right, so I did this, and my thread is, I could adjust my cutting width to be to take a little bit more. If I took my cutting width a little bit more, made it a little bit narrow, then this width would be less. So this is the back side, and I have my threads meeting on the edge, and this is my top side, and it looks pretty good. My tensions are pretty good. I do see it curling a little bit, so that's not a tension. You can look at the tensions are all the same. What I can do is, though, I can reduce the cutting width slightly so that there is a little bit less fabric in here. So it was set at like, what's that, 6? So I can just reduce it ever so slightly and see if that fixes it. So serging is not like it's a sewing machine. It's, you have to fiddle with it a lot more. I think I also have my stitch width set at like 1. Clearly I was doing a rolled hem. Yeah. What was I doing last time? Yeah, that's better. That's what I want. Alright, so I reduced the cutting width a little bit, put my stitch length back on normal, put my differential feed back to normal, and I've just got a little bit of an adjustment to make, but that's pretty acceptable. So this is my serger after, like, I've had this, what, 2 years now? And I use it a lot. I used it to make, I don't even know how many masks this last year, like they're really making masks. And, yeah, masks. What else did we make? We made dresses. So you finish the seam of the dresses, making hats. I like to make hats. I would suggest you get yourself a good serger book and just play with your serger. That looks really good. Meeting at the, pretty much at the, right at the edge. A little tiny little bit of loop, but that's because I was also not guiding it very evenly at the edge. But yeah, that's pretty much pretty okay. So that's the serger after 2 years. And what I like to do with the serger is, the very first thing I like to do, the very, very best, is I get yardage. You could do this with a 3-thread or 4-thread, but since I have pants to make a little bit later, I'm going to use a 3-thread. So I have this yardage of bright, and before I throw it in the wash, I'm going to over edge right here, because otherwise what's going to happen in the wash is, of course, it's going to unravel and it's going to make a really big mess in the washing machine. So before you get all your yardage home, before you throw it in the wash, just do your over edge, you know, 3 or 4 thread. I'm just going to do 4 thread because I'm set up for it, right? I'm just lining it up with the edge here. I don't need to take much off. This is a bit of a loud machine because it's been used and it, you know, it's... And then I will just go over here with it still attached. This tail is still attached. Start the other side. And if you think, oh my gosh, you know, I'm going to lose, when I go to cut this fabric, I'm going to lose this fabric. See, look how nice that stitch is, that over edge stitch. It's like, it's meeting right in the middle. It's not curling it over, you know. It was really easy for me to thread it, for me. When you buy a serger, you need to try in the shop to thread it yourself. If you can thread the serger yourself in the shop, that's a good serger for you. If you cannot thread the serger in the shop, there's a good chance when you get it home, you're also not going to be able to thread it, and that's going to be a pain, because there will come a point where your thread will break. And of course, that point will come at 2 in the morning when you're by yourself and you're tired and you're frustrated. You need to be able to thread the serger yourself. People say, okay, tie on and pull it through, but you can't always do that. Sometimes it breaks down here and you can't really tie it on, or it might break up there. And then what are you tying on, right? You need to be able to thread your serger. If you can thread your serger, whatever serger you get, I like this one, but there are so many good brands out there. The sewing machine industry makes like all the brands are good. Like Brother makes good sergers. A lot of people love Juki sergers. People love their Janome sergers. I bought this serger because it was, for me, it was easy for me to thread. The dealer with the service is close to my house with good support, because this is the first serger I've ever owned. I'd never owned a serger before. So I thought, you know, I might want to, you know, a class. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to buy a serger from somewhere like 4 hours away, and then if I don't know what I'm doing or I break it, you know. So the dealer was close to my house. It was easy for me to thread, and the price was right, and it came with all its feet, and it's worked out really well for me. I still really like it. Other things I've done is this machine, okay, if I turn off this light that I bought, this machine, this light is really not very bright. So I put this light up here. I put this washer up here. I can't say I invented this. I got this idea from Christopher Neiman. And I put this this washer here. This is a zinc washer from the hardware store with automotive tape. And I bought this 20 LED light with a magnetic base. And that clicks there. You have to be a little careful about your thread now. But this is gooseneck light, and it is so bright. Whee! That is a bright light. And I can see what I'm doing so well now. Because this room is a very small room, and unless it's the afternoon, it's a kind of dark room too. So that's another thing for you. I tried attaching it on the side so that I could go like that, but that didn't work. I tried attaching it on the back. That also didn't work. So on this machine, on the top worked the best. It does tend to vibrate with the machine, but honestly this magnet is a pretty strong magnet, and it does keep it in place pretty well. And then even if I turn off the IKEA lamp or turn it on, this is just so bright that I can just use that light, and I don't have to use this light that, what is this, Havarsta lamp or something I got from IKEA some time back. So I hope that helps you. That's one of the main things I do with this serger, that's like first thing I do. And then of course there's all the other things you do with your serger, like making hats, finishing seams, finish seam and then sew the seam. That's a pretty common one to make. It makes the garments go faster. So you can sew the seam, then fit the seam, and then when you're sewing, then you can adjust more. So I can sew maybe a little more precisely, because I kind of basted the seam almost with the serger, because it's pretty easy to take out serger seams. Yeah, I'm super happy with this purchase. It's just been the best thing, and it makes you wonder why I didn't get it sooner. I was so afraid of a serger, because I never used one, and it's got so many threads, right? It looks so complicated. Serger looks so complicated. Like, it's got all these threads. It's got 2 needles. You know, you look inside a serger and it's like, oh my gosh, it's so complicated and it's scary. And it's not. It's not. If I can use a serger, you can use a serger. And if I can use it for this whole 2 years and not break it, I think you can too. So go ahead and get a serger. This, even just doing this, it saves so much lint in the washing machine. These don't come out all tangled together. It makes ironing easier. You know, I've got such a nice long tail. Even if I cut it right here, this doesn't really unravel. This doesn't unravel in the washing machine, right? Then I'll go through and I'll unclick these, my snips. So now when I throw this in the washing machine, I won't get any unraveling here. I won't get this tangled up with everything else. It'll just come out of the wash like any other thing. And it's so easy. So, you know, don't be afraid of your serger. Play around with it. Do the user manual. Do make a little stitch diary. Play around with things and see what happens when you're stitching with it. Because you really, they're pretty tough machines. It's really hard to break them. Yeah. If I haven't broken it, you're not going to break it. Because I've got little kids and I sew at 2 a.m. and I'm not always, you know, paying that great attention. So I think you're going to be good. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this video and have a great night.